Welcome back to Data Explained. In this episode, we're tackling one of the most important tricks behind every massive app you use, database sharding. The idea is simple on the surface. Take one database and split it into many, but the real story is how that simple move lets systems scale far past the limits of any single server. So let's start with the wall everyone eventually hits. For a while, you can just buy a bigger server, more disk, more CPU, more memory, but there's always a biggest box on the market. And past that, the data still grows, the queries still pile up, and the price tag gets painful fast. Which leads to the obvious question, what if you stop making one server bigger and instead spread the data across many smaller ones, each holding just a slice? That's sharding. So here's the one-sentence version, the mental model to hold on to for the rest of this episode. Sharding takes one giant database and slices it into smaller pieces called shards, each living on its own server. And the magic glue is something called a shard key, a small bit of logic that decides which row goes to which shard, so every piece of data has a clear home. To make that concrete, picture a city library. One giant central branch eventually runs out of shelves. Too many books, too many visitors, total chaos. So the city opens branches, a through H downtown, I through P uptown, Q through Z by the river. Each branch holds part of the collection, and you always know which one to visit. That's sharding. The single database becomes the shards. The alphabet rule is your shard key, and every query gets routed to the right branch. Now let's translate that library into a real system. Your application doesn't talk to the shards directly, it talks to a shard key router sitting in the middle. The router looks at the key, say a username, figures out which range it falls into, and sends the query straight to shard A, B, or C. No broadcasting, no guessing, one hop to the right place every time. And that router is only as smart as the key you give it. Pick a column with high cardinality, lots of distinct values like user ID, and rows naturally fan out across every shard. Pick something lumpy like country, and suddenly one shard is carrying half your traffic while the others nap. The third test is practical. You want a key you actually filter by in your queries, so the router can find the right shard in one hop instead of asking all of them. Once you've got a good shard key, the next question is how you actually slice things up. Range sharding splits by value. A through H on one shard, I through P on the next. Easy to reason about, but you can end up with hot zones. Hashing the key scrambles things for an even spread at the cost of clean range scans. Geographic sharding keeps EU users on EU servers, which is great for latency and data loss. And directory sharding uses a lookup table, maximum flexibility, but every query pays one extra hop to ask where to go. Now, before we go further, let's clear up a mix-up I see all the time: sharding versus replication. Sharding splits different data across servers. Each shard holds a unique slice, which gives you more room and more write throughput. Replication does the opposite. It copies the same data to multiple servers, so you get extra read capacity and a safety net if one box dies. And here's the thing, big systems don't pick one. They shard for capacity, then replicate each shard for durability and read scale. So with that distinction settled, let's talk about what you actually gain by sharding. First, scale. When one server runs out of room, you just add another shard and keep going. Second, throughput. Queries fan out across many machines instead of piling onto one. Third, each shard is smaller, so lookups inside it are faster. And finally, you can do all this on cheap, ordinary hardware. A pile of modest servers will outmuscle one giant, expensive box almost every time. But, and there's always a but, sharding comes with a real bill attached. The moment your query needs data from two shards, you're stuck stitching results together across the network, which is slow and fiddly. Pick a bad shard key and one poor machine gets hammered while the others nap. Adding capacity later means physically shuffling data between shards, and on top of all that, you're now babysitting many databases instead of one. Backups, monitoring, security multiplied. Let's zoom in on that bad shard key problem because it's the classic trap. Imagine you shard by country, but 80% of your users live in one place. Congratulations, Shard A is on fire while B, C, and D are basically on vacation. The fix is to pick a key with higher cardinality, or just hash it so the load smears evenly across every shard instead of piling onto one. Now, before you go shard everything in sight, take a breath. Sharding sits at the top of a ladder, and you really want to try the lower rungs first. Start by tuning your queries and adding the right indexes. That alone fixes a surprising amount. Next, cache your hot reads with something like Redis, then add read replicas to spread read traffic and gain a safety net. Only when all of that runs out of room do you actually shard, because once you split the data, that complexity is yours to keep. And while we're on the subject of bad instincts, let's clear up a few myths that trip people up. First, no. Sharding isn't your opening move when things slow down. It's the last resort after indexes, caches, and replicas have done their work. Second, sharding and replication aren't twins. Replication copies the same data for safety and read scaling, while sharding splits different data across servers. And third, the shard key isn't a detail you can handwave. Pick a bad one and you'll end up with hot shards melting under load while the rest sit idle. So once you've decided sharding really is the right call, how do you run it without creating new disasters? On the safe side, replicate every shard so one dying node doesn't take a slice of your data with it. Back everything up and actually test the restores. Watch the load on each shard to catch imbalance early, and harden every node. Attackers only need one weak door. On the avoid side, you already know the big ones: sharding too soon, picking a low variety key, but the quiet killers are forgetting a shard in your backup job or letting node configurations drift apart over time. The good news is you almost never have to build sharding from scratch. The ecosystem has done a lot of the heavy lifting. MongoDB and Cassandra have sharding baked into their DNA, while Vitess and Citus retrofitted onto MySQL and Postgres, so you can keep the database you already know. And on the fully managed side, DynamoDB auto-partitions for you on AWS, and CockroachDB hides it all behind regular SQL. Different flavors, same core idea, many smaller pieces, coordinated for you. So let's pull the threads together. Sharding takes one database and slices it into mini shards spread across servers, and a shard key is what decides where each row actually lives. You've got a handful of strategies to choose from: range, hash, geographic, or directory. And remember, sharding splits your data while replication copies it. They solve different problems. And the big takeaway: reach for sharding last. It's powerful, but it's heavy. So how do you actually know it's time? You're ready to shard when a single server genuinely can't hold the data anymore, when writes are overwhelming one machine, when you've already exhausted indexes, caching, and read replicas, and when the growth you're seeing is real and sustained. But hold off if one box is still coping, if you haven't tuned the basics yet, if reads are the real bottleneck, just replicate. Or if your only reason is, well, we might be big someday. If you want to keep going after this, the Data Explained series digs into the neighbors of today's topic: SQL versus NoSQL, indexes, ACID, and caching all sit right next to sharding in your mental toolkit. And if you're heading toward actually running this in production, remember, more shards means more databases to tune, backup, and secure. Operating Postgres reliably at scale is its own discipline, and there's a course track for that over at Dargslan.com. Before we wrap up, I want to turn this back to you. Have you ever actually had to shard a database in real life? Or did indexes, caching, and a few read replicas carry you the whole way? And if you did shard, what key did you pick? And did it come back to bite you later? Drop your story in the comments. Those war stories are honestly the best part. And that's the data foundation: SQL versus NoSQL, indexes, ACID guarantees, and now sharding. 4 episodes in, you've got the mental model that backs basically every large-scale system out there. If this clicked for you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. and swing by dargslan.com for more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.